Hello Internet and welcome to This Day in History for the 3rd of October. Oh boy, this is a bad one today. There are so many things that I could have chosen from. It is today that Thanksgiving became a thing in the Americas. This is actually the first day where German unification took place in 1990, so it's Unification Day in Germany. There is stuff like David av Grivet of the Welsh resistance against the English being the first nobleman to be hanged, drawn, and quartered, and there is stuff like the Battle of Philippi back in the Roman civil wars. However, we are going to stick to Rome. We're going to go back to 52 BC, where Vercingetorix, leader of the Free Gauls, surrendered his forces to the Romans under Julius Caesar at the end of the battle and siege of Alesia. So why do I pick that one specifically? Well, first of all, because it's the earliest, and again, there is such a thing as maybe doing this for some years, and I might wish to come back to this day, so we start from the get-go. But also because I actually do think this is the most important thing that happened on this day. Not that German unification wasn't important, not that the first black-owned radio station in the United States of America wasn't important, but the civilizing and Romanification of the Gauls, which of course eventually during the migration periods became the Franks and then eventually today the French, has basically reverberated down the last 2,000 years. It was that which, even when Rome eventually fell, made sure that the Roman principles of some kind of civilization and just the whole Roman ethos that we still to a certain degree today live by, even though we have of course given up on the Roman Empire as such, but the concept of civilization in Western Europe, or shall we say city-based civilization in Western Europe, far more than the Greeks, since the Romans were an expansive people and culture, that has created modern-day Western Europe as we know it. This was where it all started. Now, Christianity has had its effect. Various invasions have had an effect. Of course, we have stolen, as civilizations do, from India, from the Arabs, from practically everyone. But the fact that France, this most populous area of Western Europe, became Romanized, and in fact became so Romanized that they tried to keep on being Romans even after Rome was no longer a thing, is in the end what created our modern day society. This was the germ of it, and that particular start was at the Battle of Alesia, where Caesar performed one of his most magnificent military campaigns and battles and sieges in order to destroy the Gauls under Vercingetorix. Now, let's say that the Romans have lost the battle. This would of course not necessarily have meant that the Gauls would not eventually have been subjugated by the Romans, but considering the fact that the Romans were about to delve into their civil wars, no one can say exactly when such a thing would have happened. In fact, no one can say whether or not Rome would have become what Rome became if Caesar had not in fact been successful against Vercingetorix at that particular siege and battle. Now, being a Danish person, I of course have some residual kind of sympathy for the Gallo-Celtic Germanic tribes in their struggles against the Romans, but on the other hand, I also have to admit I would rather live in a world that we do today, inspired by the Roman concepts of justice and society, than in a community based solely upon ancient Germanic tribal fashions. God only knows what kind of society that would eventually have developed into. So with that in mind, this day in history for the 3rd of October, Julius Caesar defeats the Gauls at Alesia and creates the germ for the modern-day Western society. This has been This Day in History for the 3rd of October, and until next time, I have been the Sage, and I wish you all a very happy day.